As I review my history briefly in the beginning of this, my background as a warrior, as a scientist, as an engineer, who's really been front-facing in my own individually and collectively, really fighting and defeating what I call the swarm. In fact, we should call it the Brahmin swarm, and we should talk about that. Who is a swarm, and what does this word, quote unquote, Brahmin really mean? And fundamentally, the world is now a multiracial, decentralized swarm of a neo-caste system of Brahmins who are not only in the Indian tradition, but all over the world. And we should talk about that. What does that mean? And my journey has been fighting this, again, on a very personal level and collectively. So this is when I say that I know the plight of everyday people, working people, because I am one of those people, and I've had to fight those fights front facing. It's not been something theory. So for a lot of these people who use the word, oh, I know your plight. Oh, let's be revolution. Let's start a revolution. These are just words, messaging words. None of them are real to any of these people. Many of them actually crib their notes from me, steal my words to try to manipulate people back into the swarm. So my journey has been one of a warrior, scientist, engineer, and inventor all my life. And that journey as a warrior began being exposed to a insidious system called the caste system of India that I grew up into. And now that caste system, which I thought I left India, today pervades the entire world. The Brahmins of India now have become the global Brahmin elite who actually think they're better than you at a fundamental level. And this Brahmanical caste system involves people who are brown, yellow, white, all different colors, a multiracial aristocracy which pervades the world. And it's a very small set of them. And the good news is over those last 50 years, 59 years, I'm 59 right now, of that journey, I've learned how to not only fight them, but what we must do and can do to defeat them. And in order to defeat them, that will demand that you as an individual must make a choice. Do you want to raise your consciousness? Do you want to go of this naivete and stupidity in thinking you can somehow tame and reform evil? Or do you want to take a very, very decisive approach to recognizing that evil can never be tamed or united with? Some idiot doctor wrote to me, goes, oh, you would be farther along if you worked with these evil people. It's like, you're a fucking idiot. And these people are sitting in their lofty towers, ivory towers, making commentary, never knowing the journey of me or everyday working people who've had to fight tooth and nail and every day have to fight injustice. They know nothing about the plight of everyday people. We're about building a movement. The future is offline. We're about destroying this Brahmanical swarm which pervades the entire world. And we're about there's a lot of people say, let's unite. No, there's nothing to unite here with evil. You must divide yourself from evil. It's not about unity. So my journey brings me to a very, very different path. I did a tweet today when I said, when Christ said the meek shall inherit the earth. Again, my journey reads that statement that the meek, which Christ was referring to, were the pussies and the ignorant people who do not want to stand up to evil. Yeah, they can have the earth. The warriors and the wise who want to stand up, well, we'll have different choices. We can go to heaven or we can stay here and fight. But the pussies and the ignorant people who want to follow these fake heroes, want to follow the snakes, that's what Christ was really meaning. The meek shall inherit the earth. It wasn't about the humble people inheriting the earth. It was, if you're a pussy and you don't want to break from the swarm and you don't want to fight these evil people and you're willing to accommodate them, then you deserve mammon. You deserve this material world.
So you go in depth as you like in the questions. So I want people to know a little bit more about who these Brahmin are and what we are dealing with here, because a lot of people point their fingers towards the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds or maybe even the Vatican and the Jesuits, the British nobility. But these Brahmin are European Aryans that came to India, 1500 years, 1800 years before Christ was born. And I believe that they became the first nobility. And some stuff that I read upon them, they're the ones that actually created evil. So they're the ones who introduced the actual evil into this world. There was peace and harmony before that. People really didn't know what this evil was until the Brahmins came. And they're the hidden hand that's pulling the strings they're the puppet masters, but nobody talks about that except for Dr. Shiva. We had Desert Owl come on here a couple times to mention the Brahmins being the hidden hand. So I'd like you to tell us your knowledge about that. Yeah, I think you said this Vivek the Snake, he's one of them as well.
Vivek the Snake is the epitome of a Brahmin, brown-nosing, big pharma scumbag. And let me explain why. If you look at that asshole, the technical term I'd like to describe him. This guy literally was put there by the Swarm and the WEF, and go down the list of every three-letter organization, because they want to mimic me. So they found this fake guy, a brown guy from South India, that's where his parents are from, a Brahmin, to attempt to steal, and they're failing miserably, unfortunately for them, all the work we did in 2020, all the limelight that we got from 500 million people, because we actually did God's work fighting the Swarm. So they had to find this guy. They were desperately looking for a fool. So they find this Obama 2.0 fool who attempts to mimic as though he is from the working class. He actually said he's disadvantaged. He went to a freaking prep school. His parents are from the Brahmanical caste, but it goes way beyond the Brahmanical caste as we know it to India. A lot of Indians in the United States who came here originally were Brahmins, and they do not want to talk about the caste system, because when they look back into the 60s and 70s, and even before that, what they did in India to people of my background, it's quite embarrassing. So they try to say, oh, you're discriminating against us Brahmins. No, you're the guys who caused a lot of major problems. But if you go back in history, I think it's really important to recognize, and they're trying to rewrite history, by the way, it's fascinating. There was a time when India was what was called the Dravidians, the actual native people, very much like the Native Americans. In fact, there's a lot of very fundamental relationship with the Iroquois and the Dravidians of all of India. And when I was with a project that I was doing in India, there was an Indian genome variation project that was done. And the Indian government didn't want this paper coming out, but it clearly shows, if you look at India, it's like that trapezoid. From west to east, there's literally like a dagger that comes in across North India of a very different genetic type. And it's from the quote unquote, the Indo-Aryans, which come in from Iran and that group. And it literally split way up North India, Kashmir, to the way bottom of India. Now, the people in way North India are a little bit lighter skinned, and the way people in way South India are darker skinned. But what the Indian Genome Variation Project showed was, except for ability to create melanin, which is a little darker skin, the people way North India, the Kashmiri, quote unquote, who are later called Brahmins, are the same race as the people down south. You see? So they don't want to do, so what they did was, when that invasion took place, they started diminishing the people of dark skin color with the people of light skin color. And that was one of the distinguishing features they started to do to create this Brahmanical caste system, which then pervaded all over India. But the original concept of the guild system was, you had different people. Let's say you were a really good engineer. You were known as engineer, and I was a really good blacksmith. I would be known as Dr.SHIVA, the blacksmith. You see what I'm saying? And then someone was, let's say, a really learned person who really studied things, he would be called a Brahmin. That was the original model, right? You had people who were good at things. But this model that took place converted this guild system to, oh, if you're born as this, then you will be that. You see, it was about the birth lottery. You follow what I'm saying, Jesse? It no longer became about merit of where you came from. Oh, you were born into this, you get to be that. And that devolved into this quote unquote caste system. And now, interesting enough, in India around the 8th century, which is what, about 1200 years ago or 1500 years ago, a lot of spiritual leaders saying, wait a minute, I don't agree with this. If we have equality in heaven, why isn't there equality on earth? And we're talking about connecting heaven to earth, this number 555. So these spiritual leaders started questioning this, and that led to what was known as the Bhakti movement, Bhakti, which was a movement of the heart connected to God. And between the 8th century up until the 16th century, the caste system was actually starting to break up in India. And people of merchant class, people who are artisans, were being elevated to actually get great respect. Now, when the British come to India, British colonialism, instead of letting that caste system evaporate away, British colonialism, you can think about the entire British Empire, they said, whoa, the caste system is pretty good. We can organize people, we can manipulate people, and they resuscitated it. So they went and found the old Brahmanical priests, and this is in a wonderful book called The Rise and Fall of the East India Company, written by Ramakrishna Mukherjee. He lays this all out, and they dictated the caste system, which was going away, Jesse. The concept of the caste system was a guild system based on your merit. You achieved certain strata in society, certain positions, but it wasn't supposed to be like that. And then when this Aryan invasion took place, the Dravidians of all over India never believed in property. It was like the Garden of Eden, and it was matriarchal societies. They completely created property ownership. They brought in this very divisive caste system. And then, by the way, when the spiritual leaders came up again, that started dwindling, and the British brought it back up. And now we have a caste system that pervades the entire world. Like the scumbag Vivek says, really, he believes in meritocracy and excellence? Well, he created bogus companies. He created companies, literally you can study Axovant, which is a company for $5 million, starts a company, buys a useless drug that failed 4 clinical trials from Big Pharma, has his mother, if you believe in excellence, why do you have your mother, nepotism, working in your company, who takes a failed clinical study, puts it through a spreadsheet and rehashes it and makes a failed drug appear real for Alzheimer's, and then uses his mother's report to take the company public and scam investors. Wow. This is excellence? No, what he did was financial engineering. He doesn't give a fuck about people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And then this fellow is promoted on every media channel. New York Times, the liberal media, every day there's an article of him. Why? Because the New York Times actually has real Indian Brahmins there and Brahmins, okay? The liberal promotes him. Tucker Carlson never asks him a hard question. Oh, really, Vivek? Let me ask you, why did you support this doctor, I think her name is Dina Henderson, who is all pro-vaccine mandate, all pro-mask mandate, is a big pharma person, and you gave her $2,700. Why did you do that? None of these people are asking this motherfucker any hard questions. And they actively promote him while attempting to make me invisible, but they have a problem because 500 million people all over the world have heard of Dr. Shiva during 2020. We got the word out. So the problem they have now is they're scrambling. They're in major disruption. They don't know if they should push DeSantis. They don't know if they should push Trump, do theater with his indictments. They don't know if they should bring someone else out. They're completely in disruption. Gavin Newsom, because of our movement, because in 2020, the movement for Truth, Freedom, Health, and the hard work that I did on exposing election systems at the fundamental level, all the hard work, we were the first ones to call out Fauci in the Fire Fauci campaign, May of 2020. We were the ones to first get 120,000 petitions to Trump, long before these doctors are now doing their scam to try to save face. We were the ones, and all of this is credit that we rightfully deserve because we did the work. It's not ego, and all those people have a problem with that. Again, you can get off the stream because this is the truth. And then furthermore, it was our work, my historic lawsuit, that exposed that the government and social media companies have a government censorship portal. I discovered that. Not Tucker Carlson, not Matt Taibbi, all these Brahmins. You see, they never want to give the credit to the non-Brahmins, us. So even when we do the good work and we start leading our people, the non-Brahmins, the everyday working people, the Brahmins have to steal our credit to try to manipulate the rest of us as though they're the smart ones. But they're absolutely the ones who do not give a damn about people, and they're like reptiles. They're literally reptiles. They know how to manipulate people. That's what their parents teach them from day one, Jesse. The day that they're born, they learn how to lie, how to cheat, how to slither like snakes. That's why I call this guy Vivek the Snake. I mean, think about it. His mother takes the data of a failed drug and for her son, redoes it so he can make millions of dollars. This is a slithering, spineless set of invertebrates. That's who does this. And they teach their son to do that. This guy was all out for mask mandates. Now he says, oh, I was for mask mandates because Fauci was pro-mask. So I wanted to be anti-mask at the time, right? No, in 2020. He was against mask mandates because Fauci was not for masks. So he says at that time, he was for mask mandates. You see, he wanted mandatory masks in 2020 because Fauci did not want masks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he wanted to go opposite of whatever Fauci was.
Right. So I really want to emphasize this. Isn't it amazing that they had to go find a brown guy who literally steals my words, but who's a complete scumbag? Just think about that. It's a psychological operation. A friend of mine, Owen Benjamin, said, yeah, VA-SHIVA. They had to go find V-I-V-A-K. It's all an engram that they're playing with people. And that's how slithering scumbags these Brahmins are. When again, to you Indian Brahmins, listen, oh my God, he's attacking us. Yeah, well, I am attacking you because if you really cared, you would denounce Brahmanism and the caste system. But you don't. You want to have your cake and eat it too. And to all the other multiracial Brahmins, we're coming after you because we're going to destroy the swarm. And the non-Brahmins, which are all people all over the world right now, it's not just India, we are rising up because we know and we're educating people how to identify the swarm. The swarm is the Brahmins are people like Robert fucking Kennedy, who says one thing and does another. He was promoting lockdowns. The swarm are people like Donald fucking Trump. The swarm are people like Hunter Biden. The swarm are people like Joe Biden. The swarm are people like Bernie Sanders, who says he's a progressive, but he attacks people like me and others who are the real revolutionaries because he wants all the progressives to now support Biden. You see, that's how these guys work. On the left wing and the right wing, they have the fake fighters who sucker people back, and they're always supported. That's why they get visibility. So we live at a very important time for people to really understand this dynamic, that there's a global Brahmin swarm who think they're better than you. We are building a movement now, Truth, Freedom, and Health. Our political campaign, Shiva for President, you can put this bumper sticker on the back of your car, and you will do more work that way than by being on social media, which is fully controlled. Okay? So we're about building a movement. The future is offline. We're about destroying this Brahmanical swarm, which pervades the entire world. There's a lot of people say, let's unite. No, there's nothing to unite here with evil. You must divide yourself from evil. It's not about unity. And remember, it's time that we shatter the swarm. And everyone listening today, for God's sake, get off your butts. It's being handed to you on a golden platter in some ways. The education, the knowledge, and whatever way you want to participate, get a flyer, get a bumper sticker, get on the ground, tell your friends, share this video. And by the way, with all the shadow banning, get this out there. Anyway, be the light. Best to you and your family and friends and all your audience. Thank you.